Welcome to this explainer. If you've joined me today, you're likely someone who's actively looking for a little clarity and structure in a world that, quite frankly, feels relentlessly chaotic right now. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating framework for surviving the 2020s. Think of this not just as an analysis of our source material, but as a kind of confidential briefing. So settle in. For the next few minutes, I'm going to speak to you directly, almost like a mentor briefing a time traveler, on exactly how to navigate a deeply disordered age without totally losing your mind.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt a really profound sense of temporal dysphoria? You know, that absolutely exhausting sensation where you look around at the hyper-accelerated noise, all the broken institutions, and just the constant digital hysteria of the present day, and you think to yourself, I really don't belong here. Something was missed. I was literally meant for a completely different era. Well, our source material today takes that exact overwhelming feeling and completely flips it on its head to create an incredibly powerful psychological survival tool.
Okay, let's jump right into the psychological reframe because it is a total game changer. On the left side here, we have this idea of being out of sync. When you feel out of sync, it feels like a failure, right? You feel misplaced, overwhelmed, and basically like a victim of your era. But look at the right side. What if you aren't actually out of sync? What if you are just early? Being early implies stewardship. It implies that you weren't accidentally misplaced at all. You were intentionally inserted into the somewhat primitive present, specifically because you have a future-facing temperament. You're no longer a passive victim of the era, you are an active guardian of the future. So, what does an active guardian actually do? Our source defines this role so beautifully as a translator, caretaker. Your job isn't to be some cyberpunk accelerationist who's just cheering on every piece of chaotic tech disruption. Instead, you're stationed here right now to ask a vital question. What will the more humane 22nd century actually need us to have preserved, repaired, translated, and made legible? You are standing right in the gap, reconciling the beauty of the old forms with the raw power of these new capacities, just holding the line before better systems finally arrive. Moving into Section 1, Operational Guidelines, the do's. Here is how you actively start bridging that gap between right now and that better future. Consider these specific guidelines. You need to build future-readable archives. And by that, I mean don't just hoard thousands of digital files in hidden folders. Present memory beautifully. Make small, durable websites or thoughtful visual essays. Also, treat AI not with this crazy hype or total cynicism, but treat it as a primitive, early-stage collaborator from the future. Don't just stare at the magic trick. Actually domesticate these primitive tools into repeatable workshop practices. Your mundane, everyday life, your code, your daily walks, your family history, these are the actual, literal field conditions of your assignment. Now, these aren't just quirky personality traits. The author identifies these anachronistic virtues as absolutely critical survival traits for navigating a chaotic century. Notice non-hysteria on this list. This is your absolute refusal to let the 24/7 news cycle colonize your soul. And look at technical literacy without technolatry, meaning you can totally love and use modern tools without actually worshiping them. Having real patience with transition, along with a deep-time anchor of faith, allows you to survive an era where all the institutions seem to be wobbling, all while maintaining a real aesthetic seriousness about how things are made.
Which brings us to Section 2, Hazards to Avoid, the don'ts.
Because let's face it, every field assignment has its traps, right? So it is absolutely crucial to recognize what's draining you. Doom scanning, it's not keeping you informed. It is literally just disguised injury maintenance. You're basically just checking a wound over and over to see if it's still bleeding. You have to stop letting the worst parts of the present feed on your nervous system. Also, drop the exile language. You aren't exiled from the 22nd century, you are apprenticed to it while living here right now. And maybe most importantly, stop waiting for perfectly designed systems to magically arrive before you decide to actually participate in life. This brings us to what might actually be the most powerful, grounding quote from our source material today. Wherever the century is stupid, make one thing less stupid. We all know the present is completely full of bad interfaces, terrible discourse, and just exhausting politics. It can honestly feel humiliating just to participate in it. But this maxim, this is your ultimate defense. You don't have to fix the whole era. Just focus on making one script, one single conversation, one web page, or one workflow slightly better today. That's it. Let's look at Section 3, a syllabus for future souls. To actually train this future-facing imagination of yours, we need to carefully curate your media diet. We've got to pull your attention away from all that manic noise and point it toward art that teaches what the author calls humane temporal displacement. This table distills a really incredibly thoughtful syllabus, straight from the text. Just look at the balance we have here. We've got humane anime, like only yesterday, teaching us that memory isn't just an escape, but a way to become honestly present. We have Clara and the Sun, showing how an AI's artificial devotion can somehow make human attachment look so incredibly precious. The overarching lesson across all these different works is super clear. The best art doesn't help you escape your embodiment or your duty. It teaches you exactly how to inhabit it. Now notice the stark contrast here, which touches on a deep existential and theological reality our source highlights. In a lot of sci-fi stories, think Iain M. Banks' culture novels, operatives who are stranded in primitive worlds usually have hidden powers, right? They can call for backup, they have extraction mechanisms. But the author contrasts this directly with the Christian concept of incarnation. You do not have an extraction mechanism. Your reality calls for serious endurance, for having hope without any visible rescue, and remaining faithful right inside history, completely unabsorbed by the madness of the age. I really want you to let this reality sink in for a second. You are a witness, not an operative. You don't have sci-fi knife missiles to defeat the era. What you actually have is your attention, your anonymity, your craft, your faith, and a laptop. The author notes that yes, this is a thinner armor, absolutely, but it is definitely not nothing. In fact, it is the exact honest condition of so many sane people who are just trying to live meaningful lives in deeply disordered times. Moving to Section 4, the Future Soul Litany. So how do we actually memorize all of this when the world gets incredibly loud? Well, this is your litany. Read these steps and honestly memorize them. I am from the future, therefore I do not panic at change. Change is literally the atmosphere I expected. I preserve what the future will need. I practice humane interfaces, and I absolutely refuse hysteria. I still live here. This is the assignment. Seriously, whenever you feel totally overwhelmed by the instability of the 2020s, just recite this logic to yourself to re-anchor your worldview and get right back to work. Finally, Section 5, Pockets of Order Inside Chaos. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to walk you through a really beautiful, poetic vignette from the end of our source text. It perfectly grounds this entire grand philosophy into the span of just a single ordinary day. Imagine waking up in the morning to the noise of the city right outside your window, tires on wet pavement. You lie there and you just let yourself feel it. That distinct feeling that you were placed in the wrong body at the wrong time, like some sort of clerical mistake in heaven. You let yourself feel that displacement for a moment, and then you decide to get up and make do. Your actual field assignment starts in these super quiet physical moments. You treat your primitive, clicking coffee machine with a little bit of tenderness. Sure, the future hasn't arrived yet, but the kitchen knows something. You sit at your desk, maybe enlarging old scanned parish files just to rescue a dead man's name from total oblivion. And when you finally go outside, you actively ignore the angry city signs and the sick age around you, because as the author implies, a doctor doesn't just sit around taking the temperature all day long. Later on, maybe you step into a quiet church. It smells like wax and damp wool. A red lamp is burning steadily in the corner. And as you sit there, the reality just hits you. There is no hyper-advanced society coming to extract you from this present moment. There is no rescue ship coming. There is only the quiet, actual reality of the physical world right in front of you. Then, returning home in the evening, you get back to work. You happen to notice a broken link on one of your archive pages. It's probably been broken for months. You spend the time, you fix it. It is this tiny, seemingly insignificant act of digital stewardship, but in doing so, you've actually fulfilled the primary directive. You made the world slightly less stupid today. You haven't escaped the century. That loud, chaotic world is definitely still right outside your window. But look at what was actually accomplished today. The dead man's name was saved in the archive. The broken link worked again. The lamp in that quiet church had burned. These 3 tiny acts of preservation, that is enough for one day. Standing at the window at the end of the day, you imagine that pristine 22nd century that feels like it should have been yours. Clean trains, machines that actually understand you, cities governed by adults. You see it all clearly. And then you just let it go. You accept the quiet reality of the life you have actually been given, right now. The present remained. And really, that's the ultimate takeaway of this explainer. You have the tools, you have the temperament, and you have the assignment. You do not need to wait for the perfect era to arrive before you start caring for the world. So I'm going to leave you with this final challenge. Where will you step into the chaos, roll up your sleeves, and build your own small pocket of order today?